Well, while Tina's pulling that up, just a couple quick questions. How many here represent localities of over 50,000 population? Anybody else is under 50,000? My comments will probably be more meaningful to you all of smaller localities. If you know anything about Botetourt, we've got a population of a little over 33,000. We're in the Roanoke MSA, the northeastern end of that along I-81. Board of Supervisors employees between 70 and 80, so we're pretty small. In fact, our Sheriff's Department has more employees than our Board of Supervisors has. And so that's going to inform a little bit about our perspective on social media. And as Tina said, you know, social media is just becoming so pervasive. And there's so many different types of social media, so many different ways you can use it. And one of the issues that we've confronted is how can we use it and make it work for us without getting run over by it. So I'd like to share a little bit about our philosophy, how we currently use social media, some considerations that we use when we're deciding whether or not to use social media, and conclude with some restrictions that we put on not only our use of social media, but our employees' access to social media. In terms of our philosophy, we feel like social media is a means, not an end. You know, sometimes you'll hear people and they're so enthused about social media and they talk so much about it, it's almost as if social media in and of itself is the end-all be-all. Well, as Tina indicated, I think as we'd all agree, social media is a tool. It's not an end. It's part of our overall communications toolbox. And as Tina indicated, that's what it's all about. It's about communicating with our citizens, with our constituents, with other jurisdictions. And our view is that social media has to support our overall communication strategies. Who is it that we're trying to communicate with? What are we wanting to communicate about? How do we feel like we need to communicate with those folks? We take an approach of trying to use social media where and how it makes sense. And we fully expect that as social media, I'll say, becomes more mainstream, although maybe a lot of people consider it mainstream, but I think in terms of, say, the internet and websites. Most of us can probably remember late 80s, early 90s when everybody was saying, you got to get a website, got to get a website. And you jump on that bandwagon, and the first thing is getting a presence on the web. You want to be there so people know you exist, they can find you. Well, as the internet matured, our presence became, how do we conduct business over the web, over the internet? How do citizens transact business with us over the internet? And so I see social media is still kind of going through that maturation process. It's becoming all over the place, more and more people are using it, but we're also still struggling to figure out how to use it and how we can make it work for us and just not feel like we're working for it all the time. And so that's the last point there, that it's still evolving, and we feel like there are significant risks associated with it that we all have to be aware of, be mindful of, and very deliberate as we determine how to use it in our various localities. Our Board of Supervisors has adopted a communications policy, and that's one of your handouts that we provided today. And this is a guidance for staff in how we do all public communications. We don't have a public information officer, we don't have a PR staff. We do communications, other duties as assigned. And so our communications policy lays out who can issue public information, what the process is for doing that, what the review and approval for communications is, and a section of that policy, Section 7, deals with social media. And that policy provides that we, right now, will basically use social media for two purposes: marketing and public relations. And where we're using social media is in our tourism program, our recreation program, particularly sports marketing, and then in general government public relations. Tools we're using are YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, and we use e-newsletters. And I define those as social media because they are networked. They're subscriber-based, you have to opt into them, agree that you want them, and it's another tool of communication and a micro-network for that, if you will. In terms of tourism, a couple examples of how we use it. We have 3 wineries in the county, and so we've developed a Botetourt wine trail, and we use YouTube videos, we use Twitter for promoting and marketing those assets. We've developed Upper James River Water Trail, and I'll just click on that real quick if I may, and just show you that briefly, and how we've incorporated social media into that. Here from our home page, from our main page on the water trail, you see here we've got clicks for Facebook and Twitter, where we're cross-linking social media with our website, and we cross-link Facebook and Twitter to work between the two. And if you click on the Twitter icon, for example, it'll take you to our tourism department's Twitter page. And we're currently using Twitter mainly for special announcements or to remind people of upcoming events. We also use it for promotion and marketing of our downtowns. We have 3 incorporated towns in the county. Main Street, one of them has a Main Street program, some very historical assets and resources in the towns that we use. And of course our tourism uses the e-newsletter. We have a baseball, softball sporting complex that our board constructed a number of years ago, not only to support in-county school and recreation and recreation league sports activities, but also as a means of recruiting regional and national softball and baseball tournaments to the county. And so we use YouTube to provide information for particularly tournament organizers so they can get on there and they can see the facilities, they can see the layout of it, and they can also get a feel for what it's like to experience a tournament at that facility, and also hear some testimonials from folks who've used it. And then, as I mentioned, in public relations, general county government, we have an e-newsletter that we utilize and send out to subscribers, and that's something that we publish on a monthly basis right now. In terms of our use considerations, the first question we ask is, one of the first questions that we ask is, do we have a need for social media? Does social media offer something in this particular area or this particular project or us trying to achieve this objective that other forms of communication don't offer? So that's one question we ask ourselves, do we have a need to use social media? The second is there a demand for us to use social media? In areas of tourism in particular, we've seen significant demand of people who want to be able to see videos, they want to be able to receive newsletters, they want to be able to receive tweets, and learn about things associated with tourism. And frankly, in a lot of other areas of county government, we have not seen much demand. We don't receive a lot of requests for it. Of course, another consideration is benefit versus cost. Of course, most of these platforms are very inexpensive or free to use, where, in our experience, the cost comes in is staff time. Time of developing the content for the media to keep it fresh and current, and time for managing those media, and to stay on top of those and make sure they're accomplishing our objectives. Another big consideration for us is our capacity to support social media. And our current policy is that the ability to manage social media tools is contingent upon staff time available for its maintenance. And for us, managing social media is a really key factor. We have no dedicated marketing or PR staff, as I mentioned. Our existing staff that uses social media as other duties as assigned currently devotes about 3 to 4 hours a week to social media. Our tourism director, who does the bulk of it, tells me he devotes a maximum of 2 hours a week. I said, wow, what could you do if you doubled that? And he said, well, I could do more, but honestly, I don't think I'd achieve much more results. For us to get significantly more results, we'd have to devote significantly more resources to it. Another consideration is our technology staff. Our management information systems team consists of 5 people. They support all county government technology needs. Board of Supervisors offices and departments, our constitutional offices, our social services department, our voter registrar's office. 5 people to do all of that. And so that very much limits their ability then to support also social media uses and activities. And then of course there are always financial restrictions. We have not provided yet any dedicated funding for social media activities in the county. Just like our staff has to do it as other duties as assigned, these activities find funding within existing budget funds as they're available. The final consideration here that's very important to us is risk. And this is something that initially our technology group brought to our attention. And I'd just like to run through a couple examples in terms of security. considerations. This is a report, FBI warns of social networking fraud, malware, and escalation. Malware and spam rises 70% on social networks. Malware and social network attacks surged in 2009. Users of social networking websites face malware and phishing attacks. Now, I don't think this should put you off from social media. I don't think this should keep you from using it. But these are serious warnings that I think we all have to be aware of. And our technology group came to us and they said, hey, we've got very serious concerns, particularly given the level of staff we have, particularly given the technical resources that we have, the equipment that we have to protect the county from these type of activities. We're concerned about our use of social media and how broadly and how widely we use social media. So that's led to some of the restrictions that we've put in place. Some other risks that are considerations for us, public relations. You know, there's a negative side to public relations. Social media, there's no controlling it. So both from external sources, but also from internal sources. And in terms of, it's very difficult to always control exactly how your employees use social media. And, you know, we still seem to be developing our awareness of the protocols of social media, and we don't yet seem to have the broad understandings of the do's and don'ts sometimes of social media that we have in personal interactions and emails even, and letter writing, and all too often you'll find an employee who will